I was never good at keeping this secret, so I am just gonna come out of the closet and say it. I am a gamer. I've been playing video games since I was a kid. Shocking, I know. When I was young, it was all about Sega. I had a used Sega Genesis that my parents bought me at a pawn shop. It came with 2 games, a blank shooter called Battle Squadron, and Sonic the Hedgehog. I loved Sonic. Sonic was one of the many idols I had growing up. Sonic was up there along with Billy Corgan and Chris Farley when it came to people I admired while growing up in the 90s. To this day, I still have a soft spot for the blue blur. My parents could only afford to buy me 1 game a year, my yearly Christmas gift, so I usually asked for that year's installment of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Obviously, some years were better than others. So when the mid-90s came around and it was time to upgrade to the 32-bit, 64-bit era, me being the Sega diehard that I was, bought a Sega Saturn. Go ahead and laugh. So while I was waiting for Sonic's 3D debut, which never came during the Saturn's lifetime, there was another series that not only held me over from Sonic, but blew Sonic out of the water for me. A series that inspired me to go into the arts, Panzer Dragoon. I am a huge Panzer Dragoon fan. I am also one of the very few people to own a physical copy of not just Panzer Dragoon Saga, but its soundtrack too. Panzer Dragoon is my favorite series, and Panzer Dragoon Saga is my favorite video game of all time. This video is going to be a deep dive into this amazing series. A series that I feel is even better, more unique, and imaginative than Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or any Western media. This is a series that still inspires me to this day. Heck, the graphics I use on my channel was inspired by the same unique font that Team Andromeda, the developer of Panzer Dragoon, themselves used. So let's dive right into the unique and hauntingly beautiful world of Panzer Dragoon. Just a heads up, there will be no narrative spoilers in this video. Also, I am only going to be covering the 4 main games of the series. So no Panzer Dragoon Mini on the Game Gear, or that awful OVA that us Panzer Dragoon fans pretend never existed. Anyway, let's dive in. Our story begins in 1970 Kobe, Japan. A young boy named Yukio Furusugi was entranced by the artistic medium of film. He made movies with his friends on 8mm. While spending a grade school year in San Francisco, he got exposed to early video games like Pong and Space Invaders. After coming back home to Japan, he decided he wanted to work in the video game industry. To quote Furusugi himself, "When it came time to choose a university course, I had the choice between film and video games, and I went with video games, because I thought the world of games was about to become interesting. If I had chosen film, my life might have been totally different." Before graduating the University of Tsukuba in Tokyo, Furusugi was job hunting. He applied for Konami, Namco, and Sega. Sega was his first choice, and they just so happened to have been the first to give Furusugi an offer. From then on, Furusugi was working for Sega, bouncing around doing menial tasks for the company. 2 years into working for Sega, the heads of the company were looking into new ideas for upcoming titles for the launch of their new 32-bit machine, the Sega Saturn. In particular, shooting and racing games to fill out the upcoming Saturn launch. Furusugi was one of the many employees handing in proposals. Eventually, Sega came across Furusugi's idea for a 3D dragon riding shooter game for the upcoming Sega Saturn. Sega loved it, greenlit it, and gave Furusugi a team to help him sculpt his vision. He was only 24 years old. This team would be known as Team Andromeda. Bringing Furusugi's vision onto the Saturn was not easy. The Sega Saturn was one of the most difficult gaming consoles to develop for. For one, the Saturn had 2 CPUs, an unusual hardware choice for the time, whereas its upcoming competitor, the Sony PlayStation, only had 1, making it far less complex to develop for. The Saturn had 2 video display processors, BDP-1 for sprites and polygons, and BDP-2 for backgrounds. Synchronizing the 2 CPUs was always a challenge for the developers, as they couldn't access the system's memory at the same times. The Saturn was initially designed with 2D games in mind, which it could do extremely well. But when 3D was catching on, Sega threw in the 3D components in at the last minute to compete with the PlayStation and Nintendo's upcoming Ultra 64. So, if you wanted to make a 2D game, the Saturn would be the ideal platform. But 3D? Oh man, good luck. And even if you did figure out how to do 3D on the Saturn, there's another hurdle. Now, while the Saturn was more powerful on paper than the PlayStation, its biggest weakness in the 3D department is that the Saturn used quadrilaterals instead of triangles, which the PlayStation used, giving everything a more blockier look. To top it all off, the Saturn's development kit was notoriously awful to work with, as it had barely any tools to help assist with developers, forcing some developers to use assembly language. One man called the Saturn a coder's dream. Sega did eventually make better, more easier to use dev kits, but by the time developers got their hands on them, the Saturn was already on its deathbed. Development of Panzer Dragoon took nearly a year, with a staff of just 15 people. The original title was Armored Dragon, but Furusugi, feeling the title was too bland, changed it to the German-sounding Panzer Dragoon. Panzer Dragoon is a fully 3D rail shooter, influenced by games that preceded it such as Starblade, Brave Force, and of course, Star Fox. The thing I love about Panzer Dragoon is the art direction. Dune, European comics, and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind were all key influences in sculpting this unique world. There is no other game, movie, or TV show that is like it. Panzer Dragoon takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, but unlike Mad Max, this world ended on a technological high note. In this world, humans have begun to recover technologies from the Ancient Age, a world-spanning, hyper-advanced civilization destroyed thousands of years before the events of the series. The Ancients, as they are called, used genetic engineering to create living weapons. These creatures were unleashed in a cataclysmic war that nearly destroyed humanity. The mutated descendants of these creatures have merged into the wild ecosystems, where they pose a continual threat to human civilization and serve as half the enemies you encounter in the game. Another threat you face is the Empire. Yep, just simply called the Empire. An evil militaristic force that digs up advanced ancient weaponry, and will stop at nothing to prevent you from reaching the tower. The tower, you may ask? There are 3 of them in this world, each being the main target for the first 3 games. They are the main producers of the bioengineered creatures that keeps this world in perpetual chaos. They do other things too, but I want to keep this video spoiler free. Panzer Dragoon was and still is a truly unique experience. Flying airships, strange creatures that blur the lines of the organic and technological, backgrounds that look more like surreal landscapes, and a unique soundtrack that puts most Hollywood scores to shame. Roger Ebert was dead wrong when he said video games can't be art. Gameplay wise, it's great. The shooting mechanics have aged well. There are no berserk attacks in the first game, but it's still fun without it. This was the game I bought with my Saturn. It also came with Virtua Fighter Remix, which was cool as well. Story-wise, the plot is simple, but effective. You play a nameless soldier, who, after a bad day at work, encounters a fight between 2 dragons, one blue, one green, and their riders. The rider of the blue dragon is Slade. It's up to you to take up the torch and bring this dragon to its destination, the tower, all the while of being pursued by the evil green dragon that will stop at nothing to prevent you from achieving your mission. Panzer Dragoon was released in Japan on March 10, 1995 and May 11, 1995 in North America. Even though it missed the Japanese Saturn launch by 4 months, it still garnered critical acclaim and sold well enough for Sega to greenlight future entries. Development for 2 sequels began right away. You heard that right. Team Andromeda wasn't just developing one game, but 2 simultaneously. The first game would be a rail shooter in the style of the first title. Story-wise, it was going to be a prequel to the first title. The second game was going to be an RPG set within the Panzer Dragoon universe. The studio was divided into 2 teams. The team creating what would be known as Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei consisted of roughly 15 to 20 people, while the team creating what would be known as Panzer Dragoon Saga, originally titled Azel Panzer Dragoon RPG, consisted of 40, twice the size of the Zwei team. Panzer Dragoon Saga needed far more attention from Furusugi, so directing and producing duties for Zwei was handed over to Tamahiro Kondo. As Saga was hogging up more of Furusugi's attention, story writing duties were assigned over to Katsuhiko Yamada. The team recycled the engine they used for the first game. Development lasted roughly 12 months. On March 22, 1996, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei was released in Japan on the Sega Saturn. Critics gave it high marks all around, even getting attention from Entertainment Weekly of all places. Story-wise, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei is a prequel to the first game, so you don't have to have played the first game to understand the narrative. You play as a young boy named Lundy, who is assigned to kill a baby dragon, or Kulias as they are called in this game. Lundy can't carry out the command, and not only spares its life but ends up taking care of it as well, going against the rules of his village. Years pass, and one day while teaching his dragon, Logi as he is called, to fly, a huge flying battleship comes by and destroys his village, and it's up to you and your pet dragon to get revenge. The game has branching paths that affect not just your ending, but your dragon as well. Depending on what route you choose and your overall performance on that stage, your dragon will transform, becoming more powerful and being able to lock on to more targets. Depending on which dragon you finish the game with affects your ending. Gameplay wise, Zwei introduces new to the series the Berserk attack. The Berserk attack is a meter on top of your health bar that slowly builds over time. Once it's full, your dragon fires a raging storm of homing lasers at whatever target of your choosing. It also makes you invincible while performing it. Great for boss fights. Then there is the music that outdoes the first game, incorporating elements of Celtic and Middle Eastern influence. The music was composed by 4 separate people: Tomonori Sawada, Junko Shiratsu, Teruhiko Nakagawa, and was all led by Yayoi Wachi. The soundtrack was so good it got a standalone album release from Polygram, a little over a month after the game's release in Japan. To this day, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei still gets included in greatest games of all time lists, often outranking more well-known titles. Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei is my favorite rail shooter of all time. I like it even more than Star Fox 64 or Sin and Punishment. Yeah, I know, blasphemous to say such things. This game still holds up, and I can't wait for that remake that's sure to be... oh. Well, there's always emulation, I guess. If you ever get the chance, play it. As the development of Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei was wrapping up, the series' third game, the role-playing game set within the Panzer Dragoon universe, was knees deep in a tumultuous development cycle. According to Yukio Furusugi, Panzer Dragoon Saga, as it would be called, said Saga was the most difficult Panzer Dragoon game to develop. Using the engine that was used for Zwei, which was also the engine used in the first game, it took Team Andromeda 3 agonizing years to develop. That was considered a very long development cycle back then. Nowadays, it takes 3 years just to debug and optimize. Saga pushed the Saturn to its bare limits. For one, it is fully 3D, not using any pre-rendered backgrounds that other JRPGs were using at the time. Saga also used real-time morphing, fully voiced characters, including fully voiced NPCs, and real-time shading and lighting effects, giving this game a richer atmosphere than most games of the time. Saga was also one of the first things ever to use motion capture. The team even built a dragon out of beer crates for an actor to sit on. Sega was banking on this game to compete with Squaresoft's upcoming Final Fantasy VII. Development was hectic to say the least, as Team Andromeda kept missing their deadlines. The environment was so hellish that 2 people died while making this game. One due to a motorcycle accident on his way to work, and another to the Asusu. Both cases were attributed to the intense development cycle the team was under. To quote Furusugi in a 2013 interview, "All we could do is carry on and finish the game. It was out of my hands. Part of me did want to stop though. That was definitely the toughest project I've ever worked on. And we all thought video games are stressful nowadays to make." Panzer Dragoon Saga is a sequel to the first game, making this canonically the third game, as Zwei was a prequel to the first. You play as Edge, a teenage mercenary working for the Empire. While on guard duty at an excavation site, a mutated creature, possibly a guardian, creates havoc inside the dig zone. During the fight, the creature destroys a wall, revealing what looks like a young woman encased inside a strange structure. Edge has love at first sight. Edge narrowly defeats the creature, using a rocket launcher type weapon. All of a sudden, the Empire, or so it seems, comes to the excavation site and unalives everyone, including Edge, as they steal the girl encased inside. Edge, somehow, comes back to life. After finding what he thinks is an exit, he is immediately swarmed by the creature from earlier's extended family. Even though Edge acquires a nug, it's jammed and won't fire. Then, out of nowhere, a new creature flies in and vaporizes the monstrosities, saving Edge's life. On closer inspection, the creature that saved Edge's life was a dragon. A dragon that not only saved Edge, but chooses him as his new rider. That's just the beginning. It starts as a tale of revenge, but slowly turns into something else entirely. I don't want to spoil too much, just find a way to play it and experience it yourself. Use emulation. Sadly, even though Panzer Dragoon Saga did extremely well critically, even earning critical praise as high, if not higher than Squaresoft's Final Fantasy VII, it failed commercially in its home country of Japan. When it was released to the West, only 20,000 to 30,000 units were ever produced, making it one of the rarest, most highly sought after video games of all time, going for thousands on eBay. And I am one of the very few that owns a copy. To put it lightly, Panzer Dragoon Saga is my favorite video game of all time. I love everything about it. The story, the fun time-based battle system, the amazing music, the hauntingly beautiful graphics and stellar art direction. Panzer Dragoon Saga also has one of the most bittersweet, haunting endings that you will ever see in any artistic medium ever. It's one of those endings that stays with you way after the game is over. You'll be on GameFAQs in minutes trying to find a way to unlock an extra scene or an alternate ending, only to find out that Panzer Dragoon Saga's bittersweet ending was fully intended by Yukio Furusugi himself. I love Panzer Dragoon Saga. It's not just my favorite game of all time, but probably my favorite fictional universe of all time. I don't have any tattoos or piercings, but if I got a tattoo of anything, it would be this symbol from Panzer Dragoon Saga. If you ever played this amazing game, you will know what this symbol means. It just sucks that it's stuck on the Saturn, and in order to buy a copy you would have to sell a kidney to play it. Luckily, Saturn emulation has come a long way, making this game playable to more people. I got my copy on my 15th birthday, along with Siamese Dream by the Smashing Pumpkins and Pretty Hate Machine by 9 Inch Nails. Best birthday ever. So why won't Sega bring us a remake or remaster? Well, there is a reason. According to Yukio Furusugi, the source code is lost. I've heard various reasons for this over the years. The one rumor I heard was that where Sega kept their Saturn source codes, drives, and various Saturn resources somehow caught fire, destroying everything. This is also the reason why we haven't seen too many Saturn ports or remakes on modern platforms. And that's a shame if it's true, because even though the Saturn was a huge commercial failure, it still had an awesome library of games. I actually like the Saturn library over the Nintendo 64 library. So if a remake did happen, it would have to be created from scratch. However, there is a ray of hope. Now, even though Panzer Dragoon Saga spanned across 4 discs, each disc is roughly 5 hours long, making the game only 20 hours in length, making it one of the shortest JRPGs ever created. So if Sega does make a remake, it wouldn't cost as much compared to Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII remakes have been. But sadly, the Panzer Dragoon fanbase, as passionate as we are just too few in numbers. After the failure of Panzer Dragoon Saga, Team Andromeda was quickly disbanded by the higher-ups at Sega. Half of the team went to Sega's new upcoming studio, Smilebit, while Yukio Furusugi bounced around the Japanese gaming industry until gaining work from Microsoft, and eventually ended up creating the Xbox exclusive Phantom Dust. Even though Panzer Dragoon was a critical darling, it never attained mass appeal. Most people blame this due to the platform it was on, the Sega Saturn. Unfortunately, Sega's successor to the Saturn, the Dreamcast, couldn't meet the tech required to make a stable Panzer Dragoon game on. Imagine that, the Saturn successor of the Dreamcast, which was more powerful and easier to develop for, couldn't run a last-gen game. Game development, man. WTF. So with the Dreamcast biting the dust in 2001 and Sega going third-party, a new platform was coming out that would be powerful enough to capture Sega's vision on. Enter Microsoft, the billion-dollar software company, was now entering the console race with their first gaming system, the Xbox. Sega signed an exclusivity deal with Microsoft to make a slew of exclusives to their upcoming Xbox platform, and one of these titles was a new Panzer Dragoon. So a little personal history with me in this game. I never owned it. In fact, I have never owned a Microsoft product ever. I came from a Mac family. We were Mac people before it was cool. My dad thinks and still does think that Bill Gates is the Antichrist. And I think it's Alex Cooper, but that's a discussion for another time. So when the time came for me to buy a new console because of the death of the Dreamcast, I chose the PlayStation 2. And eventually, as I mentioned my love-hate relationship with Tool Video, a GameCube. To this day, I still stick with Sony and Nintendo products. What can I say? I like Japanese video games. I naturally assumed when Sega was going third party, they would be putting their new titles on platforms that their Japanese brethren created, and not with the blue-eyed Western devils at Microsoft. Boy was I wrong. The 3 games I wanted to play during that generation, all developed by Smilebit, which had some former Team Andromeda staff, were all Xbox exclusives. However, I have played it and beat it. How? Well, I had a Mormon friend back in high school whose family didn't like Japanese culture and Japanese things. Anime freaked them out or something. So he wasn't allowed to own Japanese consoles, but Xbox was a-okay. You know where this is going. He loved Panzer Dragoon Orta and wanted to experience the rest of the series. I had the previous titles and a working Saturn, and he had the game and system my dad wouldn't allow. Now don't get me wrong, we were good friends. We also played plenty of other games too, like Soul Calibur, DOA, Extreme Beach Volleyball, and Super Monkey Ball. Good times. To this day, I only have the Mountain Dew stained memories of this game left. What I remember is that it was a very enjoyable game, but not as good as the two games that came before it, but still great. Strangely enough, that's what a lot of playtesters thought during its development cycle. Speaking of which, let's talk about that. Yukio Furusugi had no involvement with Orta. Series artist Manabu Kusunoki did not work on this title. However, Kentaro Yoshida, who also worked on the 3 previous titles, took the helm as lead art director, giving this game a truly authentic Panzer look and feel. Roughly 10 people from Team Andromeda worked on Orta, out of a team of 50. Unlike the game that preceded it, Saga, Orta was not an RPG, but a rail shooter like the first 2 games. It did, however, carry over the real-time dragon morphing that was in Saga though. Story-wise, it's not as deep as the last game, but that was to be expected with the shift of the core gameplay. In this game you play as a girl named Orta, hence the title, who has been imprisoned in a tower by a tribe known as the Seekers. Orta is seen as a cursed being who brings bad omen wherever she goes, hence the reason the Seekers imprisoned her. One night, the Empire attacks the Seeker village, releasing a barrage of their own red dragons. The red dragons bust into the tower where Orta is being held and look like they are about ready to devour her. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a totally different dragon comes by and curb stomps her ass. This dragon takes a liking towards Orta and makes her his new rider. They escape, and so the story begins. Now, I am not going to get into the details of whom Orta is, because that would involve getting into spoiler material for Saga. All I will say is that her backstory always gave me Maury Povich vibes.
You are not the father.
Lots of passionate fans who were working for Sega at the time joined the development team to get the opportunity to work on this title. You can tell a lot of passion and love was thrown into this game. Panzer Dragoon Orta was released on December 19, 2002 in Japan, January 14, 2003 in North America, and March 21st in PAL regions. Sega also created 999 Panzer Dragoon themed Xboxes for sale on their Sega Direct service. Panzer Dragoon Orta was praised by critics, but failed commercially. Personally, I believe it was, once again, the platform it was on. If it was made for the PlayStation 2 or possibly the GameCube, it would have sold better. Xbox fans want first-person shooters, driving sims, and Western-made titles. A series like Panzer Dragoon is just too strange and artsy for that type of crowd. You know what crowd I'm talking about. After the commercial failure of Orta, Sega put the series on hold. Orta was supposed to have been a new beginning for the series, but with its dismal sales numbers, plans for a sequel were scrapped immediately. In 2006, there was a semi-remake enhanced port of the first Panzer Dragoon for the PlayStation 2, but was only released in Japan, being a part of the Sega Ages 2500 series. We would never see anything Panzer Dragoon related again until the 2020 remake. Sega has been trying to make Panzer Dragoon more well known, with a few cameo appearances, and with a recent remake of the first game, which in my opinion got much better after the updates it got. And I am fine with that. We don't need a new title, leave it on a high note. All I want is an HD remaster of Orta and a convenient way to play the original Saturn trilogy. With Microsoft going third party like Sega, we could finally get Orta on other platforms. I know, not likely at all, but we can only dream. And that is my history of Panzer Dragoon video. I'm a huge fan and this series is my favorite. Sorry it takes me so long to make videos, I have a day job. I want to make videos at a faster rate, but I am more of a quality over quantity type. But stay tuned, next video is going to be about Until next time, this is The Abyss, staring back.